Somebody is calling. Who is that person? कौन है? Who is that person? Unnati Yadav. Miss Unnati Yadav, please. Seriously. Unnati Yadav. Wait. Seriously, who is that? It's good. Okay. Yes, yes, sir.
Okay, and even after that, you cannot become expert. So, and now students want to become, expert after 2 or 3 years. These shortcuts are there. Shortcuts are not there in taxonomy. That's the main problem is there. That's why, and in any study you could take, people are not again. We are getting such kind of material. I just got material from Aligarh also. Somebody was working on pharmacology, some extraction of chemicals and all this. In very simple spaces, I'm telling you, very simple Nepeta. You will find everywhere. But no one was there in university in that area can tell that Nepeta Hindustan is there. They telephoned me, they were asking me all this thing, and it's very common species. You can ask anybody. So what I'm telling, so this is a problem is there everywhere. Same thing, Hollandia, Ombrosa is there, anti-cancer compounds are coming. Anti-cancer compounds, but people, and it's very common, there are very common daily also, but nobody can identify it. That is the main problem. What I'm just want to tell to you that what the people should take, and to this forum also, that we should take important should be the people generation can take interest in technology. Here also in our now its time is there. We are talking about fallibility here and molecular classification as that our there is genotypes. Genotype is nothing to do with expression. The expression of gene, I'm telling you, you can do a lot of predictions also. You can do a lot of predictions also if you have a good knowledge of
Peconi.
we find all kind of topic you can particular ones.
Somebody, please mute.
But you cannot rely on particular ones. You need alternative also. How and what we are doing in taxonomy also, it's not what means there. We are asking tribal people, okay, what which kind of people they are the plants are using in particular disease also, right? So we are doing all kind of shortcuts are there, okay, and unfortunately we are not giving any benefit sharing now. There is provision is there and conventional biodiversity that we should give all telling to you. We can use such kind of techniques because so many species are there, so many diseases are also there. So how can we conclude? We need some shortcut. So that is very important tool. We can tell you probable which species, which family, which gene, and why do biomolecules, right? Taxonomy is very important. If you have to sustain life, your sustain life, or we must have a good. Or
Who
we,
is?
earlier speaker also said the same thing. This is a dying subject. But it's a dying subject. That's very important. People should realize this thing. If we have to progress, we have to make a balance between the sciences and biological sciences, and within biological sciences, we have to give science is important. Okay, nowadays, that day, and people are realizing this thing. From the people are doing that is there. Now, government is also affecting this thing, and this day, EIA is also there. Studies are there, so development is there. You have to be EIA report. Means there's some balance where there which should be mitigation measures specifically it cannot be right. So can preparing register for documentation because is in turmeric, kind of things will come up. That's the bias. From the outside. Even we are just look at the villain so that we can my I need your support. Get support from that was that and doing at this way understand they should main thing is their job. Job should be provided to the students who are engaged in taxonomy so that we can pick up it in better manner and possibly. So this is my humble mission is that the people want to save this earth. We have to save others. We cannot separate ourselves from others. We have to live with the others. With all this I have a hand here. And again, I thank participants, all the students and organization for providing the opportunity to share. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Chandra. Although the voice was breaking little, but that is, we have to have, this is online hazard. We have to accept it, and slowly things will improve. Online things. And now I request Professor Joshi, who is our colleague, expert in ecology, biodiversity. He has a lot of programs and well known in India and full globe. No need of detailed introduction. With this, I request Professor Joshi to start his talk and tell something new, and also please provide your views about the suggestion given by Dr. Dutt. Please, Joshi sir.
Okay, thank you very much. First of all, I must congratulate you for organizing this event and bringing very, pertinent people on board. It's indeed my pleasure to share, to be one of the panelists with them. All regards to Professor Brij Gopal and Professor CBS Dutt and also Dr. Anup Chandra and Dr. Usha Mina. I had opportunity to work closely with Dr. Dutt during my ISRO days. And Professor Brij Gopal has always blessed us with his ecology, my lessons and all. So when I was thinking about today's, topic and what should be talked about, if you see in Guardians at some point of time, Jane Goodall, she said that how come the most intellectual creature, when she says intellectual creature, it is highly contested. To ever walk Earth is destroying its only home. So that is the kind of arguments which are moving around when people talk about Biodiversity Day, and that is somewhere true as well. In the sense, if you look at world's almost close to 8 billion population, which represents only 0.01% of all living things by weight. It has a very less proportion. Even then, it has already caused the loss of close to more than 80% for all wild mammals and half of the all plants. It is all because the way, the current production and consumption pattern which we are undergoing, whether you talk about land use, land cover change, you talk about urbanization, population dynamics, trade, industry, and even governance models. These all underpin the biodiversity loss, and that is probably calling for a radical rebooting of humanity's relationship with nature. And this phrase, radical rebooting of humanity's relationship with nature, seems to be something central theme of this Biodiversity Day, where the word is rethinking and talking about our solutions are in nature. Otherwise, if you see, in terms of sciences and many of the other disciplines, biodiversity is relatively a very young science. It was coined somewhere in 1985 by Walter Rosen and popularized by E.O. Wilson, who is also considered to be the father of biodiversity. And probably they never thought that in no time people will be started talking about conservation of biology, biodiversity, and such challenges will be there. Another thing is, if you follow the World Economic Forum of 2020, which talks about global risk report, it has done a very comprehensive risk perception survey, and it has found that biodiversity loss and ecosystem collapse, it is one of the top 5 risks in terms of likelihood and impact in coming 10 years. So that is how biodiversity is looked at globally. Though there are other risks also, which are geopolitical, economic, climate, technology, governance, and then these all have again very strong connectivity with environment or environmental sciences. In spite of all these things, yet there is actually a very general confusion that persists on what amount of nature loss has occurred and why it relates to human prosperity, or how to confront it loss in a practical manner. And especially in the business world, when we talk about in other frames of any nation economy, business world is which is looked at with much larger questions in all problems of environmental or climate or global environmental change. So to me, it cannot be seen with a very linear worldview, the way economists or many a times mathematician or physicists they try to look at. But once triggered, can have this far greater than average implications. And this COVID-29 is evidence of this. I purposefully call it COVID-2019 because, and not COVID-19, because I very strongly believe, the way human beings are interacting with biodiversity or mistreating biodiversity. Soon we will have another pandemics, maybe in 2021, 2022. So, that is the kind of world which we are living in. So here in this International Day of Biodiversity aims at 3 things. One is to raise awareness, another is to raise understanding, and the third one is to raise issues surrounding it. So the former speakers, specifically Dr. C.B.S. Dutt and even Dr. Chandra, they touched upon understanding and raising awareness on biodiversity. I will prefer, touching upon issues which are surrounding to it. So, the day also serves to highlight possible strategies to protect biodiversity, which refers to variety of life on planet. So today, habitats are degrading. It is actually leading to reduction in biodiversity, and a problem that is directly affecting human well-being, poverty reduction, and global sustainable development. And including this COVID-2019 era, which has actually made all of us, actually compelled all of us to meet through this online media. So that is the world which we are living in. Sustainable development goals are being talked very loudly globally, and even if you see country specific, so many of the policies, they are getting linked to most of the targets of sustainable development goals. The beauty with sustainable development goals is, unlike Millennium Development Goals, these are interconnected and interdependent. That is the beauty with sustainable development goals. And progress on any of one enhances the progress towards the others. And more than that, we should be happy that biodiversity is somewhere critical to all of them. So it's not that I come from this discipline, so I am saying it. But anybody, if you try to have a very close look of these 17 sustainable development goals, you will find that 12 out of these sustainable development goals, they revolve in and around nature. And that is how these are, directly linked to 2020 theme of our solutions are in nature. And that is what is being emphasized, the importance of working together at all levels to build a future of life in a harmony with nature. Broadly, I can categorize these into one is valuing and conserving nature. If you see the goal number 6, which talks about clean water and sanitation, which talks about life below water, which talks about life on land, these are actually targeting at valuing and conserving nature. So that kind of design is there. Another set could be categorized within deploying nature-based solutions to address society challenges. So again, no poverty, zero hunger, good health and well-being, sustainable cities and communities, climate action, they all are looking towards this. And the third set is promoting and supporting effective and equitable governance of natural resources. You look at goal number 5, gender equity, goal number 10, reduce inequality, or goal number 16, which talks about peace and justice, our strong governance institutions and all, and goal number 17, which is on partnership for the goals. So these all, if you try looking them, they are actually getting connected with natural systems, biodiversity, in a very great sense, and that is beauty with sustainable development goals. Let me remind you of the fact that only in India, if you see that almost 30% of India's population directly derives its livelihood from immediate biodiversity in the country. And this is a known fact, quantified fact. And if you look at business or economy per se, so probably the value chain of all the trades of biological resources and their derivatives, which is in a huge quantity, are actually responsible for creating jobs for another set of 30% population. So that kind of surrogacy is there. That is how biodiversity is able to help economy, countries, and all. And still, if we fail to convince people that biodiversity is not important, so it means there is something actually wrong going around us. So these appear to be most challenging to common sense. But the truth is, human societies and economic activities, they rely on biodiversity in the fundamental ways. That is known fact. We don't openly accept it. That is a different story. If you look at a research, it shows that more than half of the world's total GDP, which is in the order of $45 trillion of economic value generation. So that is highly dependent on nature and its services, and is therefore exposed to any kind of losses to natural assets. Together, if you look at the largest sectors which are functioning very strongly globally, and specifically when you talk about tropical countries and all, one is construction, another is agriculture, and third is food and beverages. So these are the ranks which have actually come from scientific investigations, and all contribute very highly. And if you see, these again all are directly linked to biological resources, natural systems and all. So for these primary industries, probably you can see a very straightforward graph that you can understand. But if you look at secondary and tertiary industries, so again, if I name some of the industries, chemicals and materials, aviation, travel and tourism, real estate, mining and metals, supply chain, entire consumer goods, the lifestyle which are there. So you will actually see there are dependencies, very clear-cut dependencies. If you are not able to scratch it, actually there are hidden dependencies where we get to understand that through supply chain models, we all have this kind of dependency. So I could very confidently say it is more than 50% of the your global value added, which is a wherein you see supply chain is highly or moderately dependent on nature. So and this is in fact very evident when you see things around yourself during this COVID era. in last 55 days of lockdown has actually shown us that there is a detoxing of Earth during COVID 2019 induced lockdown. So recently, the day before yesterday, when Delhi got opened, we are again seeing things again coming back to pollution level. So somewhere we should acknowledge the fact, we should understand the baseline that entire economic pathway, the way it is going, it is affecting our natural resources. So thus, again, in a quantitative terms, if I try to revisit what most of the researchers they tell us is, we have actually severely altered 75% of land, 66% of marine environment, maybe 25% of assessed plant and animal species. They are actually threatened because of the human actions. And the million species might be facing extinction any day within this decade. So actually ecosystems have declined in size and their condition by 47% globally when you compare it with the estimated baseline. And Millennium Ecosystem Assessment Report of 2005, that was no wonder, it actually talked much more loudly, talked about 65 to 68, and wherein it identified the ecosystem services and more broad ecosystem services and linking it to, human well-being. So again, that becomes very difficult to digest at times. But given a choice, if I have to put it in a much more simpler language, and there is a publication in Nature which looks into a cup of coffee, how is it especially implementation and degradation of So if I give you an example of coffee, around 60% of coffee varieties are in danger of extinction. And that is because of deforestation, degradation, diseases which have come because of these deforestation, degradation, and global environmental change and climate change at large. So in this, if actually these are to happen, so global coffee market would significantly destabilize, it will affect the livelihood of many smallholder farmers. So that kind of, straight away connectivity is there with something which we start our day with and a natural system. But I am not very pessimist. I am by approach, I am very optimist, and I see some of the evidences that things are changing around. Like if you see some of the countries, they have already started this. Indonesia, it has introduced a moratorium on peatland conversion by restricting the issuing of new agriculture. So it is basically checking this by restricting the issuance of agriculture licenses. Costa Rica, if you look at, so it has redirected entire cattle subsidies towards paying farmers and landowners. Why? To provide ecosystem services. And what kind of ecosystem services? The simplest is watershed protection, which immediately everybody should be able to see, and another is global carbon sequestration. And these things are the initiatives which are there. Countries like France, it has recently established a duty of care law, and that requires companies to include environmental assessments in their supply chains. So that kind of world which we are living in. So recently we had G7 summit in 2019, where our Prime Minister was invited as one of the guests by French President. If you see that some of the outcomes of G7 summit in 2019, it has actually promoted environmental conservation. How? More than 50 companies and 250 brands have signed up the G7 Fashion Pact. One should look into these kind of things which are there, available to read and learn from them. So people have signed up G7 Fashion Pact. It is actually a commitment by fashion industry to do more to stop global warming, restore biodiversity, or protect our water bodies, including oceans and all. Another beautiful example is shifting the consumer preferences. And most of the time, deforestation, degradation was also getting in because of bushmeat collection. And it is a global phenomenon. It is nothing to do with only the countries which are relying for their protein requirements from bushmeat. It is even for countries like India and China, which try enjoying those delicacies because of their economic upliftment. But you will be amazed to know that beef consumption in United States has fallen close to somewhere around 20 to 25%. And this is something very recent number. And Europe has already predicted that both its beef and pork meat consumption will decline by 2030. So that kind of things are getting converted into. So you will also be surprised to know that soya supply, which was talked very loudly when food security was talked about. So there are 57 institutional investors. They have asked all soya trading companies around the globe to demonstrate commitment to eliminating deforestation. And this is what was talked from South America and North America there. And why they wish that publicly disclosure should come in terms of policies on this issue, including the origin from where soya is coming and the stances where it is getting supplied. And if at all it is linked with deforestation or it is not complying with no deforestation standards, so there is a blockage for this. So people talk about certification of timber, certification of goods, consumables is something very much talked about. So with this all, data set and all, I again recall, people might say this is something very minuscule or this is a business as usual. But time and again, I always recall what E.O. Wilson has said in one of his lectures. E.O. Wilson, as I said, is a father of biodiversity. So we should preserve, I quote, we should preserve every scrap of biodiversity as priceless, while we learn to use it and come to understand what it means to humanity. And probably the time has come that we have realized this, and there are some of the global, things which are happening around. And only because of this COVID-19, 2019, many of the things were obstructed. So by investing in a more nature positive way of doing business, we can probably mitigate significant economic and social shocks in the coming future. To this end, there is a need for new mechanism of public-private collaboration, and in fact, non-traditional flows of finance to reserve natural laws and secure net zero emission by 2050. That is one of the goals. Indeed, if you look at the fourth industrial revolution technologies, whichever are coming up, they offer great opportunities to support that. The shift should be towards net zero, nature positive world. That is what we are into. Again, I would like to end with one of the saying of Sir David Attenborough, who has spoken World Economic Forum, that never before have we had such an awareness of what we are doing to the planet. That is something very big thing. We have actually come to this. And honestly, never before have we had the power to do something about that. So that kind of, global commitment we are living in. If you again look at, this year was considered to be super year for nature, 2020. And somehow this COVID 2019 has derailed us from most of these policy meetings and all. There was a meeting which was proposed, World Conservation Congress, UN Ocean Congress, UN Nature Summit, and they were all, looking towards culminating towards a global biodiversity conference. And again, it appears to be very important because people were talking about post-2020 biodiversity framework. And it was actually coming up as a decade of restoration and finally acknowledging the nature-based solutions in climate negotiations. So the tragedy is the Convention on Biological Diversity, CBD, COP15 was planned in Kunming, China. in October. And the virus which we are talking about, one of the school of thought is it has emerged from there because of their food consumptions and all. And another set of thought is it is from their laboratory generation. But whatsoever it is, it has actually put a strong dent and obstacle in the global initiatives of biodiversity conservation or restoration or looking at nature-based solutions in climate change. I will stop here. And my intention was to touch upon the third aspect of that. But what Professor CBS Dutt said, he's always loaded with excellent knowledge and such a wonderful way of explaining that. We missed listening to Professor Brij Gopal because of his ill health. I wish him early recovery, and he has always blessed SES, and we look forward to that. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor. Excellent. I am getting, feedback from students. They write wonderful, nice explanations. So I this is what he give as in past to the students. Now,
thank you, everyone, because of my tears.
Dr. Usha Mina. She is our colleague and very young. Recently, she joined SES and she is trained for environment, plants, agriculture related research. So, she is the right person to talk about agriculture, biodiversity, and air pollution related, and especially in terms of scenario. Usha, please.
Thank you, sir. With this, I thanks our Dean, Professor Kulshrestha, for giving me an opportunity to be with this pertinent panelist like Professor Brij Gopal, Professor C.B. Dutt, then Professor Chandra, Professor Joshi. And I'm thankful to ENVIS also, who is organizing this International Biodiversity Day celebrations. And with this, I am agree with my co-panelist that how Professor Brij Gopal has forced us to think that we are here to talk about that our solutions lies in nature, but how we are defining, what is the definition of nature, what we are considering the nature. So first of all, we should, hello, I am audible? Am I audible to everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Hello?
Yes, ma'am. You are audible.
Thank you. Then Professor C.B. Dutt, he has very well told us that how contemporary and contextually and the biodiversity status and what are the disciplines need strengthening, like plant taxonomy disciplines need to be strengthening to document the level of biodiversity loss as well as for biodiversity conservation. Then Professor Chandra highlighted that to pursue such disciplines like plant taxonomy, we need patience, and for that he requested the students that for contributing towards the biodiversity conservation, and if you are going to pursue the type disciplines like plant taxonomy, then you have to be patient. Then Professor Joshi has addressed the third objective of CBD, and he has very well told us that we need to think over and we have to reorient ourselves to if we want to contribute for biodiversity conservation. And before starting my lecture, as Professor Kulshrestha has told us that I would be my expertise in agroecology and air pollution, so I will be talking on this topic. But before that, I think I express my deep sadness for the lives lost in COVID-19 and wish all our brothers and sisters maximum safety and good health, and also wish to build immunity. And since we are building this immunity again by finding solutions in nature, recognizing the fact that there is no vaccine and effective drugs to prevent this viral diseases. So this is also highlighting that the solutions of those problems which are not available at present, but their solutions are present in nature. So we have to conserve our biodiversity. Then I also have a special concern, and prayers are all also for people in India and Bangladesh coast who are hit hard by one of the strongest cyclone, Amphan, which has left a trail of destruction and loss of lives. I am also concerned as Amphan has also hit the world's famous transboundary coastal biodiversity hotspot of Sundarbans, which is beside being the largest mangrove area around the India and Bangladesh border, it is also home to 4 million people. So I hope that the people, ecosystem, and wildlife in this area are able to come out strong from this devastation. So all these are reminding the fact that disturbing nature beyond a limit can harm the humanity. And that's why the themes of this year International Biodiversity Day is our solutions are in nature. But with this, we have to remind ourselves that the Intergovernmental Science Policy Platform on Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services, in its reports of 2018, as well as Global Assessment Report on Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services 2019, reported that we are close to losing a million species who were threatened to be extinction in a very near future. And the rate of decline was considered to be unprecedented in human history. So, however, this year 2020, as Professor Joshi has already told, that is considered as a super year 2020. At the one hand, we are learning and adopting the new lifestyle that includes social distancing, masking, maintaining good sanitation, and forced minimization of our needs also. We are accepting and reflecting on the historical injustice and harm done to the nature in the quest for better quality of human life. We are also exploring the opportunities to value the loss and restore with nature-friendly and transformative solutions so that we can reduce. Please be attentive. I am saying we can reduce, if not reverse, the adverse socio-ecological and economic impacts. And as Professor Joshi has told, the COP15 of Convention Biodiversity CBD, which was supposed to be held on 23rd March, but now it has been postponed and it will going to held on 15 to 28th October at Kunming in China to discuss and address the issues related to the implementation of convention and its protocol, that is with respect to biodiversity conservation. And the slogan which has been finalized for that meeting was, it's a eye-catching, it is ecological civilization, building a shared future for all life on Earth. So you can see there also, we are coming back to our roots. We have to go back to our roots if we want to conserve the present humanities, for the present humanity welfare as well as for future generation. And I hope that when that meeting will hold, we should come out with some strategies so that the curve of the biodiversity loss, which is going linearly upwards, maybe we will be able to flatten that curve of global biodiversity loss. And on the themes, the current themes of this year International Biodiversity Year is our solutions are in nature. I'm just going to highlight that that is International Union for Conservation of Nature, is already playing a pivotal role for last almost a decade in endorsing the global movement of approaches on nature-based solutions. And they have already identified nature-based solutions umbrella, and under this umbrella there are array of solutions like forest land restoration is a nature-based solution, then ecosystem-based disaster risk reduction, then ecosystem-based assessment, then green infrastructure, natural infrastructure, and protected area. These are some of the approaches which has been identified under nature-based solutions. And nature-based solution brings many co-benefits to improve human well-being by providing them livelihood benefit also. So this is the time again being affirmed and reaffirmed that we need more nature-based solutions to further strengthen the theme of this year's International Biodiversity Year. With this, I want to focus now, bring the focus of the audiences on agro-biodiversity. We know that variety of plants, animals, and microorganisms is vital for food as well as agriculture. But our food production system as well as markets are under the threat from the globalization. FAO has estimated that about 75% of the genetic diversity of agriculture crops has been lost during the last century, and 20% of animal feed are at risk of extinction, and 190 breeds have already become extinct in the past 15 years. So, the reasons and the causes of this active biodiversity loss are the globalization, increasing population pressure, environmental degradation, and putting food production under stress. So, loss of biodiversity is loss of livelihood and loss of economy, which is and its major impact clearly visible in this COVID-19 scenario in India also. We are seeing that huge amount of migration of people is taking place from their working place to back to their homelands. So if there will be impact of any loss of biodiversity or loss of livelihood or loss of economy, then its major impact will be on poor people. So reducing health of food and agriculture systems and their ability to resist or adapt to extreme weather conditions as well as climate change or diseases. Besides this, there will also be loss of nutritional and cultural value, as well as indigenous traditional knowledge and traditional farming system. With respect to traditional knowledge, there are around 5,000 to 7,000 languages which are spoken in the world, and out of 5,000 and 7,000, it has been projected that in near future there will be a loss of 2,500 languages. And we all know these languages are spoken by mostly by diverse indigenous communities or indigenous tribes of the world. So if there is such a huge amount of loss of languages will take place, it's directly related with the loss of indigenous tribes or people, and as well as the culture as well as practices associated with those indigenous people which they are using to conserve the biodiversity or utilize the biodiversity in a sustainable manner for their day-to-day activities. So modern food production and market system tend to marginalize many small traditional producers, and at present we all know that we are taking most of our food from 4 plant species: wheat, maize, rice, and potato. They provide nearly more than half of the plant-based calories to the human diet. And among a dozen animal provides only 90% of animal protein consumed globally. So in most developing countries, traditional home to much of the world's agrobiodiversity, monoculture, that is cropping of a single type of crop or single type of cropping pattern like rice and wheat. This is an example of monoculture, has simply pushed out diverse traditional agriculture systems. So if we want to ensure the sustainability of our food and agriculture systems, then we have to focus on the 5 pillars, and these 5 pillars are: first of all, we have to improve the natural resource usability. Natural resources means like our soil, our plants, our biodiversity, our air, as well as water, and direct and deliberated interventions to conserve, protect, and enhance these natural resources are needed. We need to protect and improve rural livelihoods, equity, and social well-being, and enhance the resilience of people, communities, and ecosystems. And I just want to, since IUCN is already working on this nature-based solution, and with respect to agrobiodiversity, they have identified a global agriculture heritage system sites. And under this solution, all over the world, they have identified 38 global agriculture heritage system sites. And out of those 38 systems, in India also at present, they have identified these 3 sites. And the 3 sites located, one is in Kashmir, which is considered as a heritage site for saffron cultivation. Then another is in Odisha, that is Koraput, which is for traditional rice cultivation practices there. Then another is in Kutanad in Kerala. There, at this site, they are cultivating the rice under below sea level for their below sea level farming systems. And you will be surprised to know that this Koraput, that is in Odisha, the Botanical Survey of India, as well as NBPGR, that is National Bureau of Plant Genetic Resources, has identified that Koraput region is a reservoir of rich floral diversity comprising 2,500 species of flowering plants, angiosperm, gymnosperm, and fern. And the agrobiodiversity record in the region is include 340 land races of paddy and 8 species of minor millets, 9 species of pulses, 5 species of oilseeds, 3 species of fibrous plant, and 7 species of vegetables. So you can see these people of Koraput, how much they are doing, how much indigenously their efforts are put in for biodiversity conservation. And that's why they have identified as global agriculture heritage system. The importance of this system is that when in today's era of climate change as well as the declining productivity of our farming system, we are looking out for more solutions to enhance the productivity to maintain our food security as well as nutritional security. Then we have to go back to these sites which have been identified as a global agriculture heritage systems, because at these sites only we will be able to find out those solutions which are nature based. So this is just an example of that how the nature based solutions, what is the importance of nature based solutions for the biodiversity and for the present humanity's welfare, food security, nutritional security, as well as for our future generations. We need to focus more on such type of solutions. And such type of agriculture heritage systems or those sites from which we look for nature-based solutions, they must have developed over thousands of years. And the people who are residing on those sites or those who are doing their inputs to conserve the biodiversity at those sites, their traditional knowledge, that is indigenous traditional knowledge of those communities should be documented. And the knowledge and their way of life and all of which provides around their unique agrobiodiversity should be documented well, because they will be providing us the solution, that is nature-based solution, and will help us in provide social stability and food security. And this nature-based solution act as an insurance agent for humanity against diseases and extreme climatic fluctuation, and as well as coping in times of scarcity. So to understand and appreciate the nature-friendly agriculture practices of local and tribal population around the world, we need to go back to nature. And that before that, as Professor Brij Gopal has forced us to think that what we define the agriculture, how we define the nature, should have clarity of that definition. And then, but in the era of COVID-19, we have all seen that how nature is restoring itself back when there is a lack of human activities. So it highlighted the fact that we are human who are disturbing the nature. Nature itself has the capacity as well as have potential to fulfill all our demands. But it's now the stake is on our hand that we should think that how we want to explore the nature, how we should use the natural resources to fulfill our demands. So with this, once again, I thanks our Dean Sir as well as my panelists and students for hearing me and ENVIS Center. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Usha, for wonderful talk about biodiversity, that is your area. And let me tell you, this Usha is also of Environment and Forest sponsored program. So yeah, so ENVIS is doing a lot of work in this regard, and we are basically taking ahead the mandate of ministry towards conservation of environment through School of Environmental Science in JNU. And now I thank the staff and our colleagues were able to coordinate online event. And see, you think for us?
You are not clear, sir.
अजमल स्वाति है स्वाति डॉक्टर स्वाति सिंह संध्या
Yes, sir.
संध्या आर यू हियरिंग मी
Yes, sir.
स्वाति okay okay संध्या स्वाति is connected or not? Okay, now I think Swati is disconnected. Sandhya, can you say few words? Vote of thanks.
Hello. Yes, sir.
Swati is not there. Connected. Swati. Probably Swati is not there. So on behalf of NVIS also, I thank one and all, and we successfully organized this. With your participation, always this has given more glamour to the program. I think 70, 80 participants were there. So with this successful note and the message given by the experts, now I thank and close and declare the meeting closed. Thank you very much, and we will be in touch in future. Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Sir.
Thank you, sir. And regards to Dutt sir, namaskar.
Namaste, Joshi Saab. How are you?
I am good, sir. All your wishes. Thank you.
God bless.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
We'll meet sometime. We'll meet sometime.
Sure, sir. Nice, sir. Thank you.
You can discuss some even
We'll meet sometime.
4 5 minutes. You can take it. No issue. Joshi, that stuff. You can have 4 5
जी सर
minutes.
से तो हम मिलेंगे जी
Extra. Chandra Saab, are you there? So that's how it was. And we met, probably we will meet again with SES meeting.
Thank you, Dr. Kulshrestha. Brij Gopal is on the line.
Gopal ji नहीं दिख रहे.
नहीं he
That's
has
fine.
left it.
He left, okay. He was not well yesterday, he telephoned me. Then I told be there for half an hour because he was having some breathing problem.
Yeah.
Very nice. So now Joshi ने क्या बोला है that you please pursue for school.
Thank you. I wish you all the best.
Okay.
Take care.